What's going on, Badger fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Badgers. The Badgers signed two in the basketball side. Let's talk about it on Wisconsin.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers. Thank you for making this one of your first listens every day. Really do appreciate it. I am Ryan Harings, and let's talk about it. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat over 50, that's 50 infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Let's talk about it, Badger fans. The official signing day happened basketball. The Wisconsin Badgers have added 2 players to the program. Nobody was a surprise, but we got to talk about it. Daniel Freitag, Jack Robison, both players that have been on the show, both players I've talked about before, both players that I think are really strong additions to this program. We're going to talk about each of them, talk about their offer list, what they bring to the table. Maybe where one of the bigger misses in this recruiting class was for the Badgers, but let's start with the positive. Let's start with Daniel Freitag, who I think is probably the most important signee. Excuse me, the most important signee in this class, just because of the big need at point guard coming up. You have Hepburn here, but you need an heir apparent to Chucky Hepburn, right? And I think that's Daniel Freitag. Daniel Freitag, both these players out of Minnesota. Daniel Freitag, listed at 6'2", 175. I bet you he's more like 6'3", 185. Just a guess. Coming out of Minnesota, high 3-star player, really good offer list. Baylor, Cal, Iowa, Notre Dame, Virginia, Nebraska was in that, among other ones. What does Daniel Freitag bring to the program? Why is this such a big addition? It's because he, again, what have we talked about with this Badgers team? A need to upgrade the athleticism, right? A need to add more scoring punch so those long scoring droughts don't happen. Daniel Freitag checks those boxes and then some. Multi-level scorer, the ability, and you see it on the film, the ability to really score from all 3 levels. And a lot of players say they can do that. They maybe flash it occasionally. He consistently can show that. I don't think you see maybe the 3-point shooting as much on the film that I was able to watch and able to see. But that's partially reflective of the fact that he can kind of get wherever he wants on the court, right? It's partially reflective of the fact that he's playing talent that he can come downhill on pretty easily. He does a really, really good job of getting to the spots in the court he wants to get. He plays with great pace. You can see that he has a pretty high basketball IQ. He's setting up teammates pretty consistently, able to find them on cuts, able to find them off the dribble. Like, those are tough passes for a lot of players to make. He makes high-level passes pretty routinely. He's going to be that distributor that teams can't fall asleep on the backside, because he's going to find cutters. He's going to find open teammates. That makes it really hard to provide the help that he's going to likely need from opposing defenses. They're going to collapse a little bit on him because he can break down opponents one-on-one. They'd be able to score in the mid-range as well. He has a really nice crossover where, if the opponent kind of respects a little too much, he can step right back, hit that fadeaway jump. Not fadeaway, but that mid-range jumper, creating the space off the crossover, creating the space off the step back. Incredibly crafty around the rim when he gets downhill. Multiple clips going under, using either hand. He has a baseline floater that's really tough. Obviously, you can elevate and finish at the rim as well. Just a multifaceted offensive player, right? Someone who I think is going to play right away. Someone who has a physicality to his game. If you remember, also a high-level receiver recruit. He plays basketball with kind of that level of physicality, which I think is really interesting for a guard. He's going to come downhill. He's going to initiate contact. He has some physicality to his game that, quite frankly, comes from playing sports like football or wrestling, right? It comes from doing some of those other things. A lot of hoopers don't have that. He's going to go in the paint. He's going to take some punishment, which means he's going to get to the line. He's going to put pressure on defenses. He's going to get bigs in foul trouble. And again, as they collapse, he has the ability to kick it out, to find people. Defensively, I think he definitely has the physical tools. So much of defense, it's hard sometimes to tell when you're a high usage player at the high school level, right? A lot of clips, quite frankly, don't make it into the highlight film anyway. You see clips of him with quick hands. Physically, he's going to be fine as a defensive point of attack guard. He's just going to have to want it, right? And that's kind of impossible to say. I've talked to him. I think every conversation I've had with him, the intangibles seem to check for me. But you got to see it at the college level. But again, at the high school level, when you're carrying the load offensively, you're not, it's harder to always lock in defensively. It's not that I didn't see it. It's just, we have to see him play at the next level defensively to see where his want to is going to be. But physically, he's got all the tools to do it. He's big, physical, strong. He's fast. He can challenge shots vertically. This is a big time get. This is a big time get for Wisconsin. This was one of the most important recruiting wins that Greg Gard has had. We said it. I said it early on. I thought he was a bigger need than Con Knippel. I'm not saying necessarily he's a bigger talent. He's certainly not ranked higher, but I think he's a bigger need. I thought he was an incredibly important piece for Gard to close on. Gard closed it. Huge part of the class. Absolutely love Daniel Freitag in this game. Let's talk Jack Robison. Coming out of that big-time Badger feeder program in Lakeville North. He's listed at 6'6", 175. Again, he's a guy when you watch him, I think he's bigger than 6'6". He looks like 6'8" to me. Moves really well. Underrated athlete. High 3-star player. Good offer list as well. Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska. Iowa State was in there. I think there's a few other ones. Let's talk about the obvious with Robison. The cat can shoot. There is a ton of range from this lefty forward. And if you look at the team going forward, what has this team added in spades? It's added shooting all over. Freitag can shoot. Robison can shoot. In this last class, Blackwell can shoot. Winter can shoot. Yalden can shoot. In the transfer portal, Storr can shoot. They're shooting all over now. That was a huge emphasis. Robison is one of the better shooters to come in. Really, really quick release. Use him on pick and pop. One of my favorite things with Robison is he's not just a shooter, but like if he just was a shooter, right? If that's all, if the game was 6'7", lefty, pretty good athlete, and he can shoot the lights out of the ball, that's a scholarship level player, right? But he can do more than that. I love some of the clips of him on the AAU side, bringing the ball up in transition. He'll walk right into a shot if you don't defend him. A couple clips of that where the guy's kind of setting up, defense is set. He just walks right into a shot, drills it. I love the confidence of that, but it's also, he can shoot off of movement, shooting off of screens. He can shoot off of transition. And if you close off to him, he'll put the ball on the deck, get in the paint, spin move, finish at the rim. He has a mid-range shot. I think he has the length and activity to be a secondary shot blocker, a good space rebounder for a forward. This is a really good get. This is a player whose stock went up. He continued to improve on his game. This is another really good get. And again, shooting is the name of the game. Shooting will carry Robison, and with size, shooting, and the ability to put the ball on the deck a little bit, play defense, move his feet. This is a borderline 4-star player. I don't think people are giving Robison the credit he deserves. I love both these players. These are both really good pickups for the Badgers. My one frustration is there were a couple other players to potentially be had in this class. Jacobson, the center, coming late, went to Purdue. I thought that would have been a nice pickup as a stretch center. Jackson McAndrew was my guy. I loved his game. You talk about adding another scorer to this class. I thought he would have fit in great with these two. That was a bummer. Lost him to Creighton. And then obviously Con Knippel. You lose the 5-star in-state kid, goes to Duke. Listen, Duke is really hard to beat, but doggone it. That would have been a nice player to add as well. So I love this class. I love these two. I think there's a couple missed opportunities, though. So I'm going to call it a B+ on this class. I think both of these are big-time gets. Neither of them, to me, feel like plan B options. Robison, Freitag are really nice additions to the Badgers. I wish we could have added a Jackson McAndrew as well. That's where I would go on this one. But two really good gets to the Badgers program. I'm excited for it. I got on my board. Let's beat Tennessee. It's an exciting time to be a Badgers fan. There's a ton of shooting and offensive skill in this team now, and you got to give Greg Gard credit for kind of putting that all together. Today's episode is brought to you by our really good friends over at eBay Motors. Let me tell you about what they do, because I've needed parts for my cars before, and I go into like the local auto store, right? And I'm talking to them, and then they're clickety-clacketing, and they're trying to figure out, well, what size engine do you have in this? And I'm like, I don't know, man. You're the car guy. I'm the Badger guy. You're the car guy. You help me. I don't know if it's a 4.687 liter, eBay Motors has solved all of that. eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. They have all the parts at the prices you need. Everything you need, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits. eBay Motors has you covered. And you just put your car in, and with over 122 million parts, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for with eBay Guaranteed Fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit every time, or your money back. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only for U.S. customers. They are the easiest and simplest way to buy car parts. Trust me. All right, let's talk. We have to talk some Northwestern football here because this is a big game. The Badgers cannot lose to Northwestern, right? You got 3 games left. You got to beat Northwestern. Have to beat Northwestern because the next 2 are more difficult. Nebraska and Minnesota, those are coin toss games. Nebraska's defense is legit. They've righted the ship this year. Matt Rule knows what he's doing on the line of scrimmage. They've really righted the ship. And Minnesota is going to be a slugfest. It stinks that this is the spot we're in. Like for such a long time, Minnesota was almost as close to a guaranteed win as a rivalry game can be. We all remember these days. It's a slugfest now. And I don't know, right? I don't know if I would bet on us beating Minnesota. I sure as heck hope so. We got a comment in here from Robert Sorensen. Just win the Axe. Yeah, I hear you there. But let's beat Northwestern. Let's start there. A couple things. The line is too high to me. Right now it's Northwestern -10. The over-under is 42.5. Northwestern is 4-5 on the year, but they did just beat Maryland 2 weeks ago. They beat Minnesota a couple weeks before that on that huge come-from-behind win. They've kind of righted the ship. This was a Northwestern team. Everybody left for dead. If you remember the Pat Fitzgerald stuff, that's not this team now. They're a mid-tier Big Ten West team, which means they can play with any team in the Big Ten West because every team in the Big Ten West is a mid-tier team, right? Northwestern can play with anybody in the Big Ten West. They held Nebraska to 17. They just lost a 3-point game to Iowa. They gave up less points to Iowa than we did, right? Like this team can play with us. And for that reason alone, the 10 points feels way too high to me. Like I never have in my life bet against Wisconsin, even when I was sure I should have because I'd make money. I would not touch Wisconsin -10 in this game. I'm sorry. Like, Wisconsin hasn't proven that they can beat a Big Ten West team by 10 points. The over-under, I would take the under. 2 offenses that, quite frankly, have really struggled. So I would take the under 42.5, and I would take Northwestern +10 on this one. A couple fives. Let's do some stats here. Some things to look at and think about with this game. The first one is Northwestern is 5th in the Big Ten in turnover margin. Wisconsin is 8th. So Northwestern is a team that's taking care of the ball. So you start to lay out these things, right? They've beaten a couple Big Ten West teams now. They've kind of established the identity. They're playing for a bowl game, right? They have a bit of a us against the world mentality. Whether you think they should or not, that's what all teams that feel like they've been targeted will have. Michigan has that right now, even though they're a bunch of freaking cheaters. They've got an us against the world mentality. You remember when Penn State went through their scandal and nobody outside of Penn State felt sorry for them? But the Penn State guys said, that's us against the world. They're out to get us. Northwestern has the same type of mentality right now. They feel like they've been wrongly undone here, that Pat Fitzgerald was a scapegoat, whatever, and they've righted the ships, circled the wagons. Anyway, they've kind of turned it around. They're a competitive team now. They just are. The defense is pretty good, and they've been playing every Big Ten West team difficult. So they're 5th in turnover margin. They take care of the ball. Wisconsin, for comparison, is 8th. So we do not take care of the ball as well as they do. Here's some of the interesting things where can Wisconsin take advantage of these? Northwestern is 13th in the Big Ten in defensive yards per carry. So they're giving up 4.13 yards per carry on the ground. This is a great game if possible. And at times I've thought Phil Longo hasn't done enough of this. Can you lean on Jackson Aker? Can you lean on Cade Yacamelli? Can you lean on your running backs? Because Northwestern hasn't proven to stop anybody. And I thought there were moments in the last game, in the Indiana loss, I thought there were moments where you could have kept running the ball, where Yacamelli was having more success, where Aker was having more success. And Longo, I think, struggles to do that at times. And this is a game where if you're consistently running the ball, just stay with it. Because Northwestern hasn't proven that they can stop it. And your passing game, as Wisconsin, hasn't been very consistent. So run the ball if you can, establish the run. I think you can take it to them. The next one is Northwestern. This is an interesting one for Wisconsin. What does Wisconsin struggle with most defensively this year? It's probably the running game, right? Rushing defense. This has not been a great Wisconsin rush defense for a multitude of reasons. Tackling has been subpar. Defensive line play has struggled to get transition or disruptive plays. The linebackers have struggled in run fits. Northwestern is dead last in the Big Ten in yards per carry offensively, 2.79. So think about that. What that means is kind of a bellwether game for the Wisconsin rush defense. If they come in and Northwestern is able to successfully run on them, inexcusable. Because Northwestern hasn't run on anybody. That would be inexcusable. So if Wisconsin can stop the run, which they haven't been able to do consistently this year, suddenly that gets them in positions they haven't been. And it's going to lead into my next point. It's going to put Northwestern in 3rd and long. And you know what Northwestern is worse at than any team in the Big Ten? One of the worst teams in the country is protecting their quarterback. They've given up 40 sacks this year. That's last in the Big Ten pretty easily. It's about 4.5 sacks per game. Their starting quarterback, is it Ben Bryant? Yeah, Ben Bryant has hurt. Brendan Sullivan's taken over. They've given up 40 sacks. So here's the philosophy. The roadmap. You stop the run because Northwestern can't run on anybody, and then you hit the quarterback, Brendan Sullivan, because they haven't been able to protect their quarterback the entire year. Their lines are terrible, offensively and defensively. They can't stop the run, they can't run, and they can't protect their quarterback. This had better be a game where if you're Tressel, if you're that defensive line, if you're James Thompson Jr., if you're Gio Paez, if you're Turner and Muma, you got to win your one-on-ones this week because Northwestern hasn't been able to stop anybody this year in those one-on-ones in a pass protection standpoint. So big game for that. Can you rush the passer? Can you stop the run against a team that has not stopped anybody's pass rush and has not been able to run on anybody? I would hope so, right? I would absolutely hope so. And if you can do those things, Wisconsin's going to cover. But we haven't seen Wisconsin consistently do that. So I'm interested in that. Here's the last one. This one should make Badger fans excited. What is one of the hidden frustrations? If you go back, if you write at the end of this year, you write your instant reaction story to the 2023 Badgers football team, and you say, these are the things that drove me nuts. Punting and opposing teams' punters are going to be in that list, right? You think of Iowa, you think of Indiana, you think of Illinois, Ohio State, like teams' punters have killed us this year. We have consistently, I have never seen a team start inside the 5 offensively more than the Badgers have this year. It's absolutely incredible. Northwestern's punter is the worst in the Big Ten. Statistically, 14th out of 14, averaging 38 yards per punt. This had finally, potentially, possibly, probably, maybe could be a game. Wisconsin wins the field position game and flips it and turns the tables on what has befuddled Wisconsin in that field position game. So that's kind of the tale of it. Wisconsin, all these signs that I look at when I dive into the numbers tell me Wisconsin should win this game. Wisconsin potentially should even cover, but Wisconsin's been too inconsistent for me to go there. I don't think they cover, but I do think they win. I think they beat Northwestern. I just struggle with them covering. So I'm going to take Northwestern to cover, but I do take Wisconsin in a win. It's going to be kind of ugly. I'm going to call it 20-13. Wisconsin wins by 7. The under hits and Northwestern covers, but a win. And that's all that matters at this point. Win ugly, win gross. It doesn't matter. Just win. Al Davis, just win, baby. That's all that matters the rest of this year. Just win. Move on. Let's keep a little momentum coming up for this Nebraska-Minnesota stretch. All right, coming up, we're going to talk a little We're going to talk a little stock up, stock down. A couple players, football and basketball, I think are stock up. Plus, get a couple of your comments. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show over at Jace Medical. Let me talk to you a little bit about Jace Medical. And we've talked about this a lot. You and I, the listeners of the show, the people that are involved in this community, we talk a lot and we get excited together. We mourn together. We get happy together. We celebrate wins and losses. We do all this stuff together. But I want to make this conversation a little more personal. I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications. You realize what that means? You can bring it on extended travel, bring it on before the next natural disaster or supply chain issue hits. You are covered, my friend. You don't have to worry about whether or not to refill your prescriptions. And this is all possible because of our friends over at Jace Medical. Go online right now, jacemedical.com. Receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. A verified customer had this to say about Jace. I am thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused me to pull my hair out. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year supply. I also ordered an antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies. I highly recommend this for everyone. At the end of the day, you just want to be empowered to take care of your family. That's it. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. If you or someone you love will get some peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily medication, go to jacemedical.com, see if it's offered for you. Remember to use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. All right, let's do some stock up. We haven't done that in a while because I got a little frustrated. But there are some players I want to highlight. I want to start with Cade Yacamelli. Stock up. You never know, right? You never know when your number is called. Is that young player ready to perform? I thought Cade looked great. For the lack of reps, he got that one against Ohio State where he got bulldozed, not to his fault. I thought he ran hard. I think I'm a little higher on him than probably the consensus. I think he's a really good athlete. I would not write him off in the running back room next year, even though I know the pedigree of players coming in. I wouldn't write him off. I think he can catch the ball. I think he's fluid. He's big. He runs hard. Listen, that fumble is an inexcusable play, but he's also a young player fighting for yards. He's going to learn from that, get better. I like him, and he's still pretty young, right? Remember, he played multiple positions. He played everywhere in Pennsylvania as a high school recruit, came in, was a safety, just shifted over to running back. I think there's something there, and I like the way he responded in the Indiana game. I thought he was ready. That's all you can ask for when you're talking about your 4th-string running back. When his number is called, is he ready to play and contribute? Yeah, I thought he was. So stock up Cade Yacamelli, stock up Bryson Green. I'm still not there completely because there's been a lot of games where we haven't seen Bryson Green play. I mean, quite frankly, we haven't seen him make a play. But lately, it looks like the light's coming on. And if we can continue to get this level of performance down the stretch, I think going into next year, you can pencil him in as this is a guy. Like, this is a potential dude. But we got to see it consistently stacked, right? It's like Lincoln logs. Like, if you lay one Lincoln log on the ground, that doesn't mean anything. But if you stack several up, you have a wall, right? And then you can build a cabin, and then you can build a settlement. Like, Green is starting to stack that first wall, and I think that's important. So I want to see continued consistency from him, but we're starting to see what we had hoped we would see all year with Bryson Green. So stock up on there. Stock up Austin Brown, getting more and more reps really the last 3 weeks, and he looks the part. Austin Brown looks the part. Like, that's a first guy off the bus type of safety in the Big Ten. Big, physical, rangy, wraps up. I've liked his ability to make tackles in the open field, even against really good running backs. I like him a lot. I think you're looking at an integral piece of next year's secondary in Austin Brown, so I'm excited to see that continue to develop. I don't know necessarily what that means next year for a Zachman, for a Braden Moore, for a Hunter Wohler if he's back. But I think Austin Brown's in that mix. And I'm excited to see him grow with another year of strength and conditioning, another year of reps. I think he's a potential star. And this hasn't been a season where there's a lot of young players who point to and say, next year, that dude's a star. I think Austin, it's early. I think he is a potential impact player. And I'm excited to see that. One more stock up quick. John Blackwell Jr., let's go. Cannon called him the potential sleeper MVP of this team. I don't know about that, but he looks great. To me, I mentioned he kind of reminded me of Josh Gosser a little bit. Someone else mentioned Michael Flowers as a potential comp. Both of those would be incredibly great outcomes. Like, both of those players were huge to Wisconsin, to very good Wisconsin teams. They were big time contributors. I mean, he's bigger than Flowers, right? He's bigger than Gosser. Especially when they came into the program. Now, can he achieve that level of consistency? We have to see. But if he develops into either of those, that's a huge recruiting win. Now, some people have said he's those guys with more upside. We'll see. Like, we'll see. Those are really good players. But he could be on that track. That's a huge recruiting win for Greg Gard. All right, let's bang out a couple comments quick. This is from Brian. 0-3 is more likely than 3-0. Every game is winnable and losable. The problem most of us have is the team doesn't look like they're getting any better over the course of the year. I think 3-0, like, if I had to pick one, I would go 3-0, but maybe that's just me being a homer. I don't think 0-3 or 3. The thing is, I don't think either of those are likely. You're not going to lose every one of these games because all these other teams kind of suck too, right? That's the thing. We get hyper-focused on our squad, Wisconsin, the Badgers. Minnesota's not good. Minnesota lost to Northwestern. Nebraska's not good. Nebraska just lost to Michigan State. That program's terrible. Northwestern's not good either, by the way. But neither are we really, right? So I think we're going to be 1-2 or 2-1. And that's the question for me. Which one of those are we going to be? If I had to pick 0-3 or 3-0, I'm going to pick 3-0. I just am. But I don't think it's likely. Yeah, this is from Bleed Badgers, who also says Klesmit reminds me of Michael Flowers. He can score, he has the talent, but it's his defense that shines. Yeah, defensively, he's advanced for a freshman. And you can just tell, like, he gets it. But part of it is he plays hard. That's a skill. Not everybody plays hard. I said that before. That's a skill. I had a coach say one time, listen, when you come to practice, I can either coach your effort or I can coach your technique. And it's up to you to decide what I'm going to put my effort into as a coach. In other words, like, show up and play hard, and then the coaches can work on your technique and your skill. And some players can't do that. Some players, you need to coach effort. That's not good. I don't feel it's early, but I don't feel like that's going to be John Blackwell Jr. This is from Gabe Ramos. Football, who cares? Beat Tennessee on Wisconsin. Let's get a game. Let's beat Tennessee. Huge game tomorrow. We'll go live after. We'll just do the call-in show after it. But let's beat Tennessee. Let's beat the Volunteers. Let's go basketball. I still care about football, though, Gabe. There's still going to be football content, but we're going to put a lot of basketball content out there, too. So on Wisconsin, beat Tennessee. I'm right there with Gabe on that. Let's go, and we'll talk tomorrow.